So I read a proverb today that says, it's better to be a nobody with a servant than to be self-important with no food to eat. Is there a proverb that better describes our current society? How many of us are falling into pits of depression, anxiety, and purposelessness because we're so focused on making things look a certain way versus focusing on how it really is and improving how it really is? And at certain points, or at a certain point, we all have to decide if we're going to focus on how things seem or how they are. And there's no point in trying to be anything because you're never going to be any more or any less than who you already are. The only thing we can do is bring more of who we are to the surface and just give people an unadulterated version of that, right? We want to be in full bloom. But you can't do that if you're searching from significance from other sources. And that doesn't make sense because you can't search for what you already are. You're already significant. And so anytime you find yourself performing, I want you to picture a dog who's trying to figure out how it can be more of a dog. And I'm sorry, but there's only one way for a dog to be a dog. It just doesn't make sense. And so every time you find yourself doing that, remember, you can't be anything different than who you are, not in real life. And the essence of who you are is always great. So if there's any pieces of advice I can give you, one would be don't go broke trying to look rich, because the same people you're going broke for are not going to come back and refill your coffers. Secondly, don't force yourself into any social circles. Whoever is for you will be there. And if you force yourself into any sort of social circle or you force yourself into any situation where you're trying to feel more important, that same circle will come back and victimize you. And lastly, no matter what happens, you're always going to return to who and what you are. So you might as well not fight against it. And if you do fight against it, just know that you will go through some sort of breakdown just to bring you back to the core and the essence of who you are, because that has to be expressed and it will be expressed in this earth, whether or not you like it. So those are my pieces of advice. And remember, you don't want to be, in a house with no food when you could really just be at peace with a servant and everything that you need because you're just focused on being yourself.